The first thing the ferry captain noticed was the light. It cut across the early morning sky like a bright line. It was too fast to be a plane. It was too low to be a star. People on the deck pointed. Someone shouted and dropped their phone. The captain leaned over the rail, his mouth half open, because the light was coming down toward the water. It hit the ocean less than a kilometer away. A white blast of steam jumped up. The sea kicked outward in a hard ring. The ferry rocked, and passengers grabbed the railings. A child screamed. The captain's first thought was, crash. His second thought was, explosion. Then the steam moved. A shape rose from it. A man floated up out of the boiling mist like he had been standing on solid ground. His cape was torn. His suit was burned at the edges. He did not look injured. He looked annoyed, like someone who had been woken up too early. He hovered above the water, calm and steady. The captain blinked hard. The man's boots were not, even wet. Someone behind the captain whispered, "A hero." The man's head turned, slow and sharp. His eyes moved over the ferry, over the faces, over the phones. He listened to the sounds of the engine and the wind. He looked like he was counting things. Then he flew. Not like a jet with a loud roar. Not like a quirk with a flashy trail. He simply moved. 1 second he was near the steam. The next second, he was above the ferry, close enough that the captain could see a thick mustache and a stern mouth. The captain froze. He did not even think of running. The man's presence felt heavy, even without him touching anything. The man spoke in a low, polite voice. "Where am I?" The captain swallowed. "Japan," he said. His voice shook. Near Kanagawa." "Japan," the man repeated, as if tasting the word. A passenger stepped forward with shaking hands, trying to sound brave. "Are you a pro hero? What's your quirk?" The man's eyes did not change. "I can fly," he said. "That's not—" The passenger started, then stopped, because the man's tone was not playful. It was flat, like a fact. A sharp crack sounded behind them. Everyone turned. A tall radio tower on the coast, damaged by the blast, began to tilt. It leaned toward a row of small buildings near the shoreline. People on the beach ran in panic, tiny dark shapes against the sand. The captain's brain finally caught up. "Oh no!" The flying man was gone. He was not streaking. He was just suddenly there. He caught the tower with one hand. The metal groaned. Bolts popped. The tower should have ripped his arm off. It did not even bend him. He pushed it back upright, slowly, like a person setting a broom back in a corner. Then he pressed the base down into the ground until it steadied. The captain stared. His hands trembled on the rail. The man floated above the sand. Steam curled around him. He looked at the running people and the damaged buildings. His face stayed, calm, but his eyes were alert. A siren wailed in the distance. 2 figures arrived from inland at high speed. One moved like a blur, with engines whining from their legs. Another swung in with tape snapping from his arms. The second hero landed in front of the man, stance wide, voice loud and clear. "Civilians behind me! Unknown individual! Identify yourself!" The man's head tilted. "Identify," he repeated. The hero with tape glanced at the tower, then at the clean way it had been set straight. His eyes widened for half a second. Then he forced his voice steady. "Are you a villain? Are you armed?" The man looked down at his own hands as if checking. "No." The hero with engines took a step closer, cautious. "If you're not registered, you need to come with us. We can help. But you can't just appear and—" The man's gaze moved to the hero's costume, then to the hero's posture, then to the hero's badge. He watched like a teacher watching a student's. "Mistake," he said. "You dress like soldiers." "We're heroes," the tape hero said, sharper now. "This is a hero society." The man's mustache lifted slightly, almost a smile. "A society that trains fighters," he said, "and calls it peace." The tape hero tensed. "That's not—" A child ran out of an alley, crying, looking for a parent. The engine hero moved instantly to intercept, fast, skilled, careful. The flying man moved first. He appeared beside the child, picked her up gently with one hand, and set her behind the hero's. He did it so fast that the engine hero's foot hit sand where the child had been. The engine hero froze, eyes wide. The man did not look proud. He looked like it had been the only logical thing to do. More sirens came. News drones started to buzz overhead. Phones rose like a wall of glass. The tape hero tried again, forcing control. "You need to come with us. We can figure out what you are, for everyone's safety." The man looked up at the drones. Then he looked back at the heroes. His voice stayed polite. "For your safety," he repeated, and the calm way he said it made the captain's stomach twist. The man hovered a little higher. He scanned the city beyond the coast, the roads, the moving lights. Then his eyes returned to the symbol on the hero's chest. He asked, almost casually, "Who is your strongest?" The tape hero did not answer fast enough, and the man's small smile stayed in place, as if the answer did not matter, as if he would find out on his own. Aizawa hated bright rooms. This room was all white light and shiny metal. It smelled like disinfectant and new paint. Cameras sat in the corners. A one-way mirror covered an entire wall. The chairs were bolted to the floor, and in the center of it all sat the stranger. He sat like he belonged there, back straight, hands folded, cape laid neatly behind him, not a single sign of panic. Izawa leaned against the far wall, sleeping bag draped over, one shoulder like always. He looked tired. He was tired. But his eyes were sharp. Across the room, Principal Nezu sat on a raised chair with a tablet in front of him, smiling like it was tea time. On the other side, a woman from the Hero Public Safety Commission watched through thin glasses. Her suit was perfect. Her voice was calm, practiced. "Thank you for cooperating," she said. The stranger nodded. "Cooperating seems efficient." Aizawa watched his face, not his mouth, not his words, his eyes. People lied with words all the time. Eyes were harder. Nezu tapped the tablet. "We have a few basic questions," he said kindly. "Your name, for example." The stranger did not even blink. "Nolan," he said. Aizawa's brow twitched. He noted it. A name given too easily could be real, or it could be a tool. The commission woman smiled. "Family name?" "Nolan is fine," the man said. "That's not how registration works," she replied, still smiling. The man's smile did not reach his eyes. "Then your system is narrow." Aizawa's fingers flexed. He could already feel the coming headache. Nezu's voice stayed gentle. "Our society has rules," he said. "They keep people safe." "Rules," Nolan repeated. "I saw your heroes on the coast. They told me what I could not do, before they asked what I needed." Aizawa stepped forward half a pace. "You caused a shockwave when you arrived," he said. "People could have died." Nolan turned to him. "They didn't." "That's not the point," Aizawa said. Nolan studied him. "You are the suspicious one," he said. Aizawa did not deny it. "We don't know what you are." Nezu lifted a paw. "We ran medical scans," he said. "You allowed it, which we appreciate. Your biology is unusual. Very dense muscle. Very dense bone. No sign of a known quirk factor pattern." The commission woman slid a thick folder across the table. It landed with a heavy thump. "This is the first set of forms," she said. "Quirk classification, legal identity, residence, and provisional hero limitations." Nolan looked down at the folder like it was a strange animal. He opened it. page after page. His expression stayed calm, but Aizawa saw the smallest shift in his jaw, a tightness. Nolan flipped to a page labeled Quirk Type. He picked up a pen. Aizawa watched carefully. Nolan wrote one word: biology. The commission woman's smile stiffened. That is not a category. It is accurate, Nolan said. Nezu's eyes gleamed with interest. So you're saying your abilities are not a quirk? Nolan did not answer right away. He looked at the camera. Then he looked at Aizawa. Then he looked back at Nezu. Your world uses quirk to explain power, he said. In my world, power is not explained. It is trained. Aizawa felt a cold line run down his spine. Not fear. Not yet. Something like warning. All right, Aizawa said flatly. Let's test a simple thing. He took off his goggles and stared directly at Nolan. His eyes activated. His hair lifted slightly. The air felt different, like pressure. If Nolan's power was a quirk, it should shut off. Nothing happened. Nolan did not blink. He sat there the same as before. Aizawa's power did nothing. Nezu's smile turned thoughtful. The commission woman's pen paused. Aizawa put his goggles back on. So it's not a quirk, he said. Correct, Nolan replied, as if they were discussing the weather. The commission woman folded her hands. Then that makes you more dangerous, she said, still calm. Because our safety systems are built around quirks. Nolan's eyes narrowed slightly. A safety system that only works on one kind of threat, he said. That is not safety. That is comfort. Nezu leaned forward. Mr. Nolan, he said warmly, may I ask why you came here? Nolan's face stayed polite. His voice stayed controlled. I did not choose your location, he said. I was traveling. Something interfered. Traveling from where? Nezu asked. Nolan paused. Aizawa felt it. A real pause, not the fake kind. Nolan said, far. The commission woman slid another paper forward. You will be assigned a supervised status, she said. A special consultant. You will not operate independently. You will not enter schools without permission. You will not use lethal force. You will not. Nolan looked up. His eyes were calm, but the room felt smaller. You are telling me what I will not do, he said. Yes, the woman replied, because you are in our country. Nolan's smile returned, thin. I was polite on your coast, he said. I followed your heroes. I sat in your room, and you think that means you control me. Aizawa shifted his weight. He kept his voice steady. We're not trying to control you. We're trying to prevent disasters. Nolan's gaze flicked to him again. Then ask better questions, he said. Nezu's tail swished once. What do you want? He asked, gentle but direct. Nolan looked at the folder again. He tapped the stack of forms with one finger. I want to understand your world, he said. Your rules, your power structure, your strongest people, your weaknesses. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. That's exactly what a threat would say. Nolan nodded like that was fair. Yes, he said. The blunt agreement made the commission woman's smile finally slip. At that moment, the door opened. The room changed. Even the air seemed to shift. All Might stepped in. Not in his skinny form, in his hero form. Tall, broad, smiling, bright. Aizawa's chest loosened a little without him choosing it. That was what All Might did to rooms. All Might's smile was wide, but his eyes were serious as he looked at Nolan. I hear you arrived with quite a splash, he said, voice loud, friendly. Nolan stood up. He did it slowly, respectful. But he did not look impressed. He looked like he was seeing a famous statue in person and checking if it was real. All Might, Nolan said, like he had already heard the name. All Might extended a hand. Welcome, he said. "If you're lost, we can help." Nolan looked at the hand, then he took it. His grip was careful, controlled. All Might's smile did not falter, but Aizawa saw the tiny shift in All Might's shoulder. He felt the strength. He did not show it. All Might kept talking, still warm. "In Japan, heroes work to protect people," he said. "We don't scare them. We don't treat them like tools." Nolan's face stayed calm. "Yet your government is already treating me like a tool," he said, eyes flicking to the commission woman. All Might's smile tightened a fraction. "Sometimes our system is imperfect," he admitted. "But the goal is still to save people." Nolan's eyes stayed on him. "You are the strongest," he said. All Might did not answer that directly. He angled his body slightly, a friendly stance that also put himself between Nolan and the door. Aizawa noticed. All Might noticed Aizawa noticing. A silent teamwork they had done for years. All Might said, "We can work together, but we have to start with trust." Nolan's mouth twitched. "Trust," he repeated, like it was a strange word. Nezu clapped his paws softly. "Perhaps," he said, "a compromise. Mr. Nolan stays under observation, but he also receives a legal path to cooperate, a chance to learn, a chance to show intent." The commission woman nodded. "Provisional consultant status," she said. "Limited field activity. Escort required." Nolan looked at the cameras again. Then he looked at All Might. He said, "Fine." Aizawa did not relax. He wrote a note in his head. He agreed too easily. All Might gave a bright smile. "Wonderful," he said, loud enough for the cameras to catch it. "Then let's begin properly, with introductions." Nolan's eyes did not smile, but he nodded, and outside that room, screens across Japan filled with the image of a mustached stranger beside the symbol of peace. The headlines were fast and excited. "New hero? Unknown flying man saves coastal town." Aizawa watched those headlines on a monitor later, in a dark hall. He did not like bright rooms. He liked the dark because it showed what people tried to hide. And in the dark hall, he could admit the simple truth to himself. If that man decided to stop playing nice, none of their normal plans would work. Far away, deep underground, an old man listened to the broadcast. He sat in a room that smelled like medicine and dust. Tubes and machines hummed softly around him. All for One watched the screen with a pleased tilt of his head. He could not see like normal people, but he could sense. He could feel the shape of power when it moved through the world. He had felt All Might for years. This new presence felt different. Not like a quirk, not like a mutation. It felt like a storm wrapped in skin. "All Might has found a new toy," All for One said softly. A follower leaned closer. "Should we attack?" they asked. All for One chuckled. "No," he said. "Not yet." On the screen, the mustached man stood calm beside All Might. Cameras loved him already. The public wanted a story, a hero, a mystery. All for One loved mysteries too. He leaned forward slightly. "Bring me information," he said. "Every clip, every angle, every report. I want to know what happens when that man is forced to choose." His mouth curved into a smile. "Because if he is what I think he is," All for One whispered, "then the rules of this world are about to feel very small." They tried to test Nolan in safe ways first. Nezu called it non-invasive assessment. The commission called it risk management. Aizawa called it hoping he stays polite. They brought Nolan to a reinforced training room on UA's grounds at night when students were asleep. The walls were thick. The floor was layered. Sensors were built into everything. Nolan looked around once. "This is a cage," he said. It's a gym, Nezu replied cheerfully. Aizawa stood near the door, arms crossed. We need to understand your limits, he said. Nolan faced him. Why? So we know how many people die if you lose control, Aizawa said. Nolan's eyes held Aizawa's gaze for a long second. Then Nolan nodded once. Honest, he said. They asked him to lift weights first. It was pointless. He lifted everything easily, with perfect control, like the weights were empty. Then they tested speed. Aizawa watched the numbers on the monitor climb until the system stopped counting correctly. Is this your top speed? Nezu asked. Nolan glanced at the monitor. No, he said. The commission woman cleared her throat. Do you have restraints? She asked. Nolan looked at her, as if she had asked if he had a leash. I can restrain myself, he said. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. That's not what she meant. Nolan's mouth twitched. I know, he said. The running gag got worse on the third day. They handed Nolan a new set of forms because the first set had been filled out incorrectly. Nolan stared at them. Your handwriting is fine, the commission woman said quickly. It's the answers. Nolan tapped the page again, where it asked for quirk name. He wrote, none. The woman sighed. Everyone has a hero name. Nolan looked up. Why? Branding, Nezu said, like it was a fun word. Nolan blinked once. You make warriors into products, he said calmly. All Might, who had come to observe, laughed in his big, friendly way. Now, he said. A hero name helps people feel safe. Nolan looked at him. Then call me the Flying Man, he said. All Might's smile stayed up, but his eyes watched Nolan closely. He could feel the tension in the room. He could feel Aizawa's distrust. He could feel the commission's hunger to control. All Might chose his tone carefully. We're asking you to meet us halfway, he said. You want to learn our world, then learn our customs too. Nolan's eyes moved to the forms again. He sighed, almost human. He wrote something. Aizawa leaned to see. Nolan had written, Omni. Aizawa frowned. Omni, he said. Nolan looked back at him. It means all, he said. It fits. The commission woman's eyes brightened like she had just been handed a gift. Omni-Man, she said quickly, adding man like it was obvious. Nolan stared at her. Aizawa waited for Nolan to correct her. Nolan did not. He just said, if it makes your paperwork happy. And for the first time, Aizawa saw the shape of it. Nolan was not just playing along to be polite. He was learning what mattered to them. He was learning what buttons to press. The first real crisis came on a day the sky was clean and bright, the kind of day people trusted. UA had planned a rescue training session off campus, a controlled environment, a mock disaster zone made of concrete and steel. Cameras were allowed in limited ways because hero schools loved showing confidence. Aizawa did not love it. He stood on a catwalk above the training ground, watching students line up in their gear. He watched Midoriya bounce on his feet, nervous and excited. He watched Bakugo glare at everyone like anger was air. He watched Todoroki stand quiet, eyes forward. All Might was present in civilian clothes, smiling and cheering, trying to keep things normal. Nezu stood with a clipboard, and Nolan, Omni-Man, according to the forms, stood near the edge of the training ground, arms relaxed, cape hanging still. He looked out of place among teenagers and teachers. He looked too calm. Midoriya kept stealing looks at him, not in fear, in curiosity so strong it hurt. Midoriya's brain buzzed with questions, flying without a quirk factor pattern, strength beyond sensors, no visible strain, no fear around All Might. What is he? Midoriya scribbled notes in his head because he did that when he was anxious. It helped. Aizawa's voice came over the speakers. This is rescue training, he said. Not combat. Focus on evacuations. Focus on teamwork. Treat injuries. Protect civilians. Bakugo scoffed. Boring. Aizawa ignored him. Nezu lifted a paw. Begin, he chirped. The mock disaster started. Sirens, smoke machines, fake rubble, mannequins placed as victims. Midoriya moved with Ida and Uraraka, lifting debris carefully, calling out positions, remembering the drills. For a moment it felt normal. Then the air changed. Not the smoke. Something else. A cold feeling. Aizawa felt it first. His eyes snapped to the far wall. A dark ripple opened there, like space itself was being folded. A purple mist spread low along the ground. Aizawa's stomach dropped. "No," he muttered. A man stepped out of the ripple with hands in his pockets. Pale skin, messy hair, red eyes that looked tired and angry. Behind him floated a figure made of black fog with a white mask-like face. Midoriya froze. He knew those pictures. Everyone did. Shigaraki Tamura, Kurogiri. And then, like a punchline made of muscle, a creature stepped through behind them. It was huge. Gray skin, stitches, thick arms, dead eyes. A Nomu. Students screamed. Some tried to run, some tried to fight. Panic hit fast, because this was not training anymore. Aizawa's voice snapped through the speakers, harsh and loud. "Evacuate! Protect each other! Teachers, move!" He dropped from the catwalk like a falling stone, scarf snapping out to catch rails and swing him forward. All Might stood up in shock, his face changing. He was not in hero form. He was not ready. Shigaraki spread his arms as if welcoming an audience. "Hello," he said, voice rough. "We came to break your symbol." Midoriya's heart slammed in his chest. "This is real! This is real!" Kurogiri's fog rolled outward, blocking exits with swirling dark gates. Aizawa landed hard, eyes blazing. "Shigaraki," he growled. His gaze snapped to the Nomu. Erasure hit it. The Nomu did not slow down. Aizawa's breath caught. Right. Not a quirk. Built. The Nomu moved with terrifying speed, charging straight toward the cluster of students. Midoriya reacted without thinking. He pushed Uraraka backward. "Get out!" he shouted. Ida grabbed a stunned student and ran. Bakugo blasted forward, explosions popping, trying to push the Nomu away. The Nomu swatted him aside like a fly. Bakugo slammed into a wall. Concrete cracked. He slid down, stunned. Todoroki threw ice, building a thick barrier. The Nomu hit it and shattered it with one punch. Midoriya felt his legs shake, and then he saw Nolan move. Nolan had been standing still, watching like someone watching a test begin. Now he stepped forward. He did not yell. He did not pose. He simply moved toward the danger. He flew straight across the training ground at a speed that made Midoriya's eyes lose him for a second. Then Nolan appeared between the Nomu and the students. The Nomu swung. Nolan caught the fist. The impact should have sent Nolan flying. It did not. The ground beneath Nolan's boots cracked in a tight circle, but Nolan's body barely shifted. For one moment, the whole place went quiet, because everyone's brain tried to understand what they were seeing. Then Nolan pushed. He shoved the Nomu's arm down into the side, turning its balance. He stepped in and drove a punch into the Nomu's chest. It was not a long combo. It was one clean hit. The Nomu's body folded. A shockwave snapped out. Dust jumped off the floor. The Nomu flew backward and smashed through two concrete walls like they were paper. Midoriya's mouth fell open. That was stronger than... He looked at All Might, still in civilian form, eyes wide, jaw tight. All Might was thinking the same thing. Shigaraki stared, then grinned like a child who had just found a bigger toy. "Oh," he said, voice bright with sick excitement. "Who's that?" Nolan floated a foot off the ground. His face stayed calm. He looked at Shigaraki, and in that look, Midoriya felt something colder than fear. It was the feeling of a predator looking at prey. Aizawa flashed forward, scarf snapping. "Don't engage him alone," he shouted at Nolan. Not because Nolan needed help, but because Aizawa needed information. "We need answers." Nolan did not look at Aizawa. He kept his eyes on Shigaraki. Kurogiri opened a warp gate behind Nolan, trying to drop Nolan into a trap. Nolan turned his head slightly, as if he heard the air move. He moved faster than Midoriya could track. He appeared beside Kurogiri, grabbed the fog figure by the throat area where the collar would be, and slammed him into the ground. The ground cracked. The fog shivered. Kurogiri's form wavered. He was not used to being handled like a physical object. Shigaraki's smile faded. His fingers twitched, ready to decay. Nolan looked back at him, still calm. Shigaraki lunged. His hand reached for Nolan's arm. Nolan caught Shigaraki's wrist. The grip was firm, not crushing. Controlled. Shigaraki's eyes widened. His decay did not trigger on Nolan's skin the way it did on normal things. Not because Nolan was immune, but because Nolan did not let Shigaraki's hand fully settle and press. Nolan kept it moving, kept the contact from becoming stable. Aizawa saw it and realized something important. This man is not just strong, he is skilled. All Might stepped forward, voice sharp. "Everyone, fall back!" he shouted. "Protect the students!" Nezu's voice crackled through emergency speakers. "Teachers to Zone C! Emergency Route Alpha!" The facility was turning into a battlefield. Students ran, teachers formed lines. Cementos raised walls. Midnight released sleep gas in controlled bursts to slow villains and protect civilians. Midoriya grabbed a smaller student and pushed them toward an exit that was not blocked. His eyes kept flicking back. He could not stop watching Nolan. Nolan spoke to Shigaraki, still holding him by the wrist. His voice was quiet, almost conversational. "You attack a school," he said. "You use children as bait." Shigaraki bared his teeth. "Heroes do it too," he snapped. "They make kids into weapons." Nolan's mustache lifted slightly. "That part is true," he said. Aizawa's blood ran cold at that. Nolan's eyes stayed on Shigaraki. "But you're sloppy," Nolan added. "You talk too much." He moved. He did not punch Shigaraki's head off. He could have. Everyone felt that truth in the air like lightning. Instead, Nolan flicked Shigaraki sideways, hard enough to throw him across the ground and into a wall. Shigaraki hit with a grunt and slid down, coughing, but alive. Kurogiri snapped a warp gate open between Shigaraki and Nolan, trying to pull Shigaraki away. Nolan's eyes narrowed. He grabbed the edge of the swirling fog with one hand, like it was a curtain. He pulled. The gate strained, warping and twisting. Kurogiri's eyes widened in the mask. Impossible! Nolan released it, not because he could not rip it, but because he saw something else. He saw students. He saw teachers. He saw All Might watching him, and he saw cameras. News drones had slipped in. Phones were up. The public would see whatever he did next. Nolan's jaw tightened. This world was full of witnesses, and witnesses changed what was useful. The Nomu burst back through the broken walls, roaring. It had regenerated. It charged again, aiming at All Might this time, because even with All Might not transformed, the villain plan had one goal: break the symbol. All Might's eyes sharpened. He clenched his fists, pain flaring in his chest, because he could not maintain hero form for long anymore. He stepped forward anyway. Nolan moved first. He met the Nomu mid-run. This time he did not punch its chest. He grabbed its head with both hands and drove it down into the floor. Once, the concrete cratered. Twice, the floor shattered deeper. A third time, the Nomu's body went limp for half a second. Nolan held it there, keeping it pinned. Aizawa realized Nolan was doing something very deliberate. He was neutralizing without killing. He was proving a point. All Might stared, breathing hard, feeling both relief and something bitter, because he knew what it meant when someone that strong decided the rules were optional. Shigaraki coughed and pushed himself up, eyes burning with hatred now instead of excitement. He looked at Nolan like Nolan had stolen his spotlight. Kurogiri's fog wrapped around Shigaraki's shoulders. "We're leaving," Kurogiri said, voice tense. Shigaraki snarled. "No!" All for One's voice came through a communicator in Shigaraki's ear, calm as ice. "Enough," it said. "We got what we needed." Shigaraki's face twisted. He hated being told what to do, but he hated losing more. He glared at Nolan, then at All Might. "This isn't over," Shigaraki spat. Kurogiri opened a gate behind them. The League began to retreat. Nolan released the Nomu and rose into the air, eyes locked on the retreating villains. He could catch them. He could end this right now. Midoriya felt it. Everyone did. All Might lifted a hand, palm out, not as a command, but as a plea. "Nolan," All Might said quietly, voice tight. "Stop." Nolan hovered there, cape fluttering. His face was calm, but inside, something in him pulled in two directions. A short path, a clean path. End threats fast. And the longer path. The path of this world. The path of symbols, and rules, and cameras. Nolan looked at the gate. Then he looked at All Might. Then he looked at the students behind the walls, shaking, alive. He exhaled through his nose. And he let the villains go. Kurogiri's gate snapped shut. Silence hit the broken training ground. Dust drifted through sunlight. Alarms wailed. Students stared at Nolan like he was a new kind of disaster that had decided to be helpful. Aizawa walked up beside All Might, eyes narrowed, voice low. "That was restraint," he said, "not obedience." All Might swallowed, looking up at Nolan. "I know," he said. Nolan landed lightly on cracked concrete, as if nothing had happened. He glanced at the ruined walls, the terrified faces, the injured students. Then he looked toward the distant city, where people were already watching clips online. His voice was calm when he spoke. "This world is going to keep making monsters," he said. All Might's jaw tightened. "Not if we stop them," he said. Nolan's eyes stayed on him. "With paperwork and speeches?" he asked. All Might did not answer right away, because he was thinking of the Nomu's regeneration, the warp, gates, the way Shigaraki smiled. And he was thinking of the man standing in front of him, who could have ended that attack in 10 seconds. Nolan turned slightly, as if listening to a sound only he could hear. He wasn't. He was listening to the world, to its fear, to its rules, to how easy it would be to reshape it. And somewhere deep underground, an old villain watched the same footage and smiled wider than before. Because now everyone had seen it. Everyone had seen what happened when a man like that decided to step into a hero battle. And the world would not forget it. 3 days after the attack, the videos were everywhere. They played on phones and trains. They played on screens and shop windows. They played in classrooms where teachers pretended they were not watching too. A monster hit a school. A teacher fought it. A new man in a red and white suit grabbed it like it was nothing. And then there was the part people replayed the most. The moment Omni-Man floated in the dust, looked at the villain's escape, and chose to let them go. Some people called it mercy. Some people called it fear. Some people called it proof that even the new hero was part of the system. Aizawa sat in a dim staff room at UA with his scarf wrapped around his neck and a cold coffee in his hand. He watched the same clip on mute, again and again. He did not care about the comments. He watched the faces. He watched All Might's hand, raised like a stop sign. He watched Omni-Man's eyes, calm and flat. He watched the way Omni-Man paused, like he was running numbers in his head. Aizawa turned off the screen and rubbed his eyes. Behind him, the door opened. Nezu walked in, carrying a folder that was almost as tall as he was. "Good morning," Nezu said, cheerful in the way that always made Aizawa more tired. "It's not," Aizawa replied. Nezu hopped up onto the table and pushed the folder toward him. "Public Safety Commission," he said. "They want to update his status." Aizawa did not open it. "They want to own him," he said. Nezu's smile stayed, but his eyes sharpened. "They want to survive him," Nezu corrected. Aizawa stared at the folder like it might bite him. "We don't have a plan for this," he said. "Not a real plan." Nezu tilted his head. "We are building one," he said. Aizawa's voice went flat. "A plan that depends on him being reasonable is not a plan." Nezu's tail flicked once. "Then we need a plan that does not," he said. Aizawa's phone buzzed. A message from the commission. "Meeting in 30 minutes. Attendance required." Aizawa sighed and stood. As he walked down the hall, he passed a classroom where students were packed in tight, talking too loudly, trying to pretend they were fine. Midoriya's head was down, scribbling in a notebook. His hands were shaking, but his pen kept moving. Aizawa paused, watching him. The kid had been terrified, and still he had moved to protect others. Aizawa had seen that look in too many young faces. He kept walking. If Omni-Man stayed in this world, these kids would grow up under his shadow. If Omni-Man did not stay, they might grow up under something worse. Aizawa hated both options. The commission meeting took place in a clean building with tight security and soft chairs that made Aizawa want to stand. The commission woman from before, sharp eyes, perfect suit, sat across from him with a tablet and a calm smile. All Might sat beside Aizawa. He was in his skinny form, shoulders narrower, hair less wild. His smile was still there, but it looked heavier now. Nezu sat at the far end, paws folded. A screen on the wall showed Omni-Man's public image, clean angles, hero pose, a caption under his face. Omni-Man, provisional consultant. "Public confidence is unstable," the commission woman said. "Some people feel safer, some feel threatened. We need a clear message." All Might leaned forward. "The message should be truth," he said. The woman's smile did not move. "Truth needs a frame," she replied. "Otherwise it becomes panic." Aizawa crossed his arms. "You want him to do a press event," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," she said. "A controlled appearance, a statement, a promise of cooperation. We present him as a partner of the hero system." "And if he refuses?" Zawa asked. The woman tapped her tablet once. "Then he becomes an unlicensed foreign threat with unknown capabilities," she said. "And the public's fear becomes law." All Might's jaw tightened. "You're trying to push him," he said. "We are trying to guide him," she corrected. Aizawa looked at the screen. Omni-Man's eyes were still. Too still. "Guiding requires a leash," Aizawa said. "You don't have one." The woman met his gaze. "We are developing contingencies," she said. All Might's eyes flicked to her. "What kind?" The woman's voice stayed smooth. "A networked response plan," she said. "Rapid evacuation protocols, specialized capture tools from support companies, a task force of top heroes." Aizawa felt a cold irritation. "You think nets and foam will stop him?" he said. The woman did not blink. "No," she said. "I think we can buy seconds. Seconds save lives." Nezu spoke softly. "And what is the commission's end goal?" he asked. The woman's smile returned to full strength. "A stable society," she said, "where power is regulated." Aizawa almost laughed. "He isn't power you can regulate," he said. He is a new category. All Might's voice grew quiet. He's still a person, he said. The woman nodded politely. That is why we must keep him inside the system, she said. The system is how we make powerful people behave. All Might looked down for a moment, like he was swallowing something bitter. Aizawa knew what he was thinking. All Might had been the strongest, and he had chosen to behave. But All Might had chosen it because he believed in it. Omni-Man's reasons were still a blank. Nezu slid a small paper across the table. His paperwork is still incomplete, he said. The commission woman sighed. Yes, he refuses a legal name. He refuses a quirk classification. He refuses a birth record. Aizawa muttered, because he doesn't have one. The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. And you are sure of that? She asked. Aizawa held her gaze. Aizawa Shota, he said. Erasure hero. My quirk does nothing to him. He breaks our sensors. He does not react like any quirk user I have ever seen. All Might added. His strength is not like ours. The woman leaned back. Then we treat him like a disaster that can speak, she said. We prepare for the worst and pray for the best. Aizawa hated that she was right. Nezu stood on his chair. We should speak to him, he said. Not as a weapon, not as a headline, as a guest. The woman's smile turned colder. Guests don't get to threaten the host, she said. All Might's hands curled. He did not raise his voice, but the room tightened anyway. He hasn't threatened anyone, he said. Not directly. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Yet, he said. The meeting ended with polite words and sharp promises. When they left the building, All Might's shoulders sagged a little, like the air outside was heavier. Aizawa walked beside him in silence. Finally, All Might spoke. They're scared, he said. Aizawa's voice was flat. They should be, he replied. All Might looked at him. And you? He asked. Aizawa stared ahead. I'm tired, he said. Then, after a pause, and I'm scared too. All Might did not react like it was a weakness. He nodded slowly, accepting it. Then he said, I want to talk to Nolan alone. Aizawa stopped walking. That's a bad idea, he said instantly. All Might's eyes stayed steady. It's a necessary idea, he said. If I can't reach him with trust, then all we have left is force, and force won't work. Aizawa's mouth tightened. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say, don't. But he knew All Might was right about one thing. They had to try the human way first, because the other way was just a countdown to disaster. Midoriya Izuku's room felt too small now. After the attack, the walls seemed closer. The sounds of the dorm seemed louder. Even the light from his desk lamp felt sharp. He sat on his bed, notebook open, scribbles everywhere. He had drawn Omni-Man's stance from memory. He had drawn the Nomu's shape. He had written the sequence of movements he thought he saw. But there were blank spaces in his notes. Not about speed, not about strength, about emotion. Omni-Man's face had not changed when he fought. Not when the Nomu charged. Not when Shigaraki screamed. Not when students cried. It was like he was solving a problem. Midoriya tapped his pen against the paper and whispered to himself, What are you? A knock came at his door. Midoriya jolted. Yes. The door opened. Omni-Man stepped inside like it was normal. Midoriya's heart jumped into his throat. Omni-Man's presence filled the room without him trying. He looked around once, eyes landing on the hero posters, the textbooks, the notes. Midoriya Izuku, Omni-Man said. Midoriya stood up so fast he almost fell. Yes, that's me. Omni-Man closed the door behind him. You watched me closely, he said. Midoriya froze. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Omni-Man said. His voice was calm, almost patient. Observation is a form of respect. Midoriya swallowed. His hands trembled. "Why are you here?" he asked. Omni-Man looked at the notebook on the bed. "You write," he said. Midoriya blinked. I take notes," he said. "It helps me think." Omni-Man nodded once, as if that made sense. "I used to write," said. Midoriya's eyes widened. "Used to." Omni-Man's gaze drifted to the window, to the dark campus beyond. "I still do," he corrected. "Just not for pleasure." Midoriya's mouth opened, then closed. He forced himself to ask the question that burned the most. "Are you a hero?" he said. Omni-Man looked back at him. "Is that what you want me to be?" he asked. Midoriya's face warmed. "I want you to be someone who saves people," he said quickly. "You did save people." Omni-Man stepped closer to the bed and looked down at the notes. "Your teachers tell you not to kill," he said. Midoriya nodded. "Yes," he said. "We're heroes." Omni-Man's eyes stayed on the paper. "Your villains use that rule," he said. Midoriya hesitated. "Sometimes," he admitted. Omni-Man's gaze rose to Midoriya's face. "Then why keep it?" he asked. Simple and direct. Midoriya's throat tightened. He thought of All Might. He thought of his mother. He thought of the way All Might smiled even when he was hurt. "Because," Midoriya said, voice shaking, "if we become like them, then we lose what makes us heroes." Omni-Man stared for a long moment. Midoriya couldn't read his eyes. That scared him more than anger would have. Midoriya took a breath. "When you save people," he asked softly, "do you feel anything?" Omni-Man's jaw moved slightly. For a second, his calm mask looked thinner. Then he said, "I feel that it is done." Midoriya's chest tightened. "That's not what I meant," he said. "I know," Omni-Man replied. Midoriya forced himself to stay standing. "All Might feels something," he said. "He feels hope. He wants people to smile." Omni-Man's mustache lifted slightly. "Your symbol," he said. Midoriya nodded hard. "Yes." Omni-Man looked away again, like he was looking at a distant memory. "Symbols are useful," he said. "They organize people." Midoriya flinched at the word useful. He tried again, softer. "But do you care?" he asked. Omni-Man looked back. His voice was still calm, but there was a sharp edge now. "Caring is expensive," he said. Midoriya didn't know what to say to that. Omni-Man reached out and tapped the notebook lightly. "You were trying to understand power," he said. Midoriya nodded. Omni-Man's eyes narrowed in thought. "Understand this," he said. "In your world, power asks permission. In mine, power makes decisions." Midoriya's stomach dropped. He whispered, "That sounds scary." Omni-Man leaned down slightly, bringing his face closer to Midoriya's eye level. "It is," he said. Then he straightened, calm again. As he walked to the door, he paused. "You are brave," he told Midoriya. "But bravery without capability is a short life." Midoriya's eyes widened. "I'm trying to get stronger," he said quickly. Omni-Man's gaze lingered on him for a beat. "Good," he said. Then he left, closing the door softly behind him. Midoriya sank onto his bed, shaking. He stared at his notebook. The notes felt useless now. Because the real danger was not Omni-Man's strength. It was the way he looked at their world like a project. All for One watched the dorm footage from a hidden camera feed. He did not need eyes to smile. His voice carried the smile. "He speaks to the child," All for One murmured. Dr. Garaki stood nearby, hands clasped, breathing shallow. "Is that wise?" he asked. All for One chuckled. Wise is boring, he said. Effective is better. He turned slightly, as if listening to music only he could hear. The Commission wants to leash him, All for One said. All Might wants to redeem him. Aizawa wants to trap him. The boy wants to believe in him. All for One's smile widened. So many hands, he whispered, reaching for the same blade. Garaki shifted nervously. Do we attack him? He asked. All for One's voice turned gentle, like a teacher correcting a student. No, he said. We invite him. He tapped a finger against the arm of his chair. Prepare a message, he said. Something respectful. Something honest. Garaki frowned. Honest? All for One's smile did not fade. Honesty is a hook, he said. Tell him the truth about this world. Garaki swallowed. Which truth? All for One leaned forward. Tell him the heroes are controlled, he said. Tell him the villains are chaotic. Tell him the system is fragile. Tell him the symbol is dying. Garaki's eyes widened. All for One's voice softened even more. And tell him, he added, that a strong man should not kneel to paperwork. He laughed quietly, because he knew how to tempt a man like Omni-Man, not with money, not with praise, with the promise of a world that makes sense. The next day, All Might met Nolan on a rooftop. It was early. The city below was waking up. Cars moved like slow insects. People walked to work with coffee and bags. All Might stood near the ledge, wind tugging at his thin hair. He did not wear a cape now, just a simple jacket. Nolan stood across from him, cape hanging still, as if the wind did not dare touch it. All Might chose his words carefully. You saved lives, he said. Nolan nodded. Yes. All Might's smile flickered. But you also scared people, he said. Nolan's eyes narrowed slightly. They should be scared of the villains, he replied. They were, All Might said. But now they're scared of you too. Nolan looked out over the city. Fear is a tool, he said. All Might's voice stayed calm. Hope is a tool too, he said. And hope lasts longer. Nolan looked back at him. Does it? He asked. All Might's face tightened with pain that had nothing to do with his injury. It has to, he said. Because if it doesn't, then everything I built was a lie. Nolan watched him like he was watching a crack form in a wall. All Might, Nolan said quietly. You are strong, but your world wastes strength. All Might took a slow breath. We restrain ourselves because we must, he said. We don't get to decide who lives and who dies, not even if it's efficient. Nolan's jaw moved. Efficiency prevents future deaths, he said. All Might shook his head. It also creates new monsters, he said. The moment heroes become executioners, we lose the right to call ourselves heroes. Nolan stared for a long time. Then he said, Your rules are your religion. All Might's eyes narrowed. And your rules are what? He asked. Nolan's voice stayed calm. Survival, he said. All Might nodded slowly, like he had expected that answer. Then I'll ask you something, he said. Not as a hero. Not as a symbol. As a person. Nolan's eyes did not blink. All Might said. Why did you pause? Nolan's gaze sharpened. What? All the villains were escaping, All Might said. You could have caught them. You could have ended it. But you paused. You listened to me. Why? Nolan looked away for the first time. The pause was short. Then he said, Because you are this world's center, he replied, and because your world is watching. All Might's mouth tightened. So it was strategy, he said. Nolan looked back. Yes, he said. All Might's eyes stayed steady. Was that all? He asked. For a second, the wind seemed louder. Nolan's voice dropped slightly. No, he admitted. All Might's chest tightened. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He just said, "If there's even a small part of you that wants to do the right thing here, I will help you." Nolan studied him. Then Nolan said, "Your commission will not." All Might's smile turned sad. "I know," he said. Nolan looked out at the city again. "Then I will learn your world faster," he said. "Before, your world decides I am its enemy." All Might's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" he asked. Nolan turned back. "I mean," he said, "I will travel." All Might held his gaze. "And if the commission orders you not to?" he asked. Nolan's mustache lifted slightly. "Then they will learn what orders mean," he said. All Might's heart sank, because Nolan had not said it as a threat. He had said it as a fact. That same evening, a sealed envelope arrived at the commission building. It did not explode. It did not contain poison. It contained a single sheet of paper and a simple line written in neat handwriting. "To Omni-Man, there are people here who understand power. If you want a world that makes sense, meet me. No name, no address, just a time, and a location that was far from cameras." The commission woman held it in gloved hands and felt the room tilt around her. She did not know who sent it, but she knew it was dangerous, because it offered something that even Hero Society could not offer. Clarity. She looked out the window at the city lights. Then she turned to her staff. "Activate the contingency team," she said, quietly. Nolan began his learning like it was a job. He did not start with crowds and speeches. He started with structure. He flew high above the city at dawn and watched traffic patterns. He watched response teams. He watched how quickly heroes arrived when alarms sounded. He landed in different districts and visited hero agencies under the Commission's public cooperation tour because they insisted on escort. Different stamps, different forms, different polite smiles, always more paperwork. At one agency, a receptionist handed him a clipboard with a bright grin. "Just sign here, here, and here," she said, "and choose your hero slogan." Nolan stared at the slogan list. "Smile for safety. Justice never sleeps. Peace through courage." He handed the clipboard back. "No," he said. The receptionist blinked. "No slogan?" Nolan's voice stayed calm. "My actions are my slogan," he said. The receptionist laughed nervously like it was a joke. His escort did not laugh. Aizawa followed him twice from a distance, not because Aizawa believed he could stop Nolan if Nolan noticed, because Aizawa believed information mattered. In one district, Nolan arrived at a collapsed building where a construction error had trapped workers. Pro-heroes were working carefully, lifting beams, calling medics, shouting for quiet. Nolan floated down and lifted the heaviest slab with one hand. He did it slowly, carefully. He placed it aside like a block in a child's toy set. The trapped workers stared at him with wide eyes and open mouths. A rescue hero whispered, "Thank you," like they had just been handed a miracle. Nolan did not smile. He simply asked, "How long would this have taken without me?" The rescue hero hesitated. "Hours," they admitted. Nolan nodded once, as if confirming a number. Later, Nolan visited a coastal patrol base and watched hero boats scan for smugglers. He asked simple questions. Who gives the order? Who decides the boundary? What happens when the system fails? The heroes answered with pride, with rules, with procedures. Nolan listened, and with each answer, he built a map in his head. Not of streets, of control. The side corner of the world he chose next was quiet. Mountains, a small town with old roads and fewer heroes. The Commission's escort team stayed at a distance because Nolan insisted on privacy for research. They did not like it. But they agreed. because they were trying to keep him cooperative. Nolan stood on a ridge at night, looking down at the town lights. He opened a notebook and wrote a few lines. Not about beauty, about response time, about the location of the nearest hero agency, about how long it would take for backup to arrive. He paused, listening. Then he felt it. A pressure in the air. A sound like the sky itself tearing. Nolan's head snapped up. A streak of light cut down through the clouds. It hit the mountain slope a few kilometers away. The impact was not like his arrival. It was worse. The ground shook. Trees snapped. Rocks rolled down the hillside like a landslide. Nolan's eyes narrowed. He flew toward it in a straight line, fast enough to turn the cold air sharp against his face. At the crater, smoke rose. The dirt was blackened. Stone was cracked. A figure stood in the center, brushing dust from his shoulder like it was nothing. He was older than Nolan, bigger, built like a wall, scarred. His mustache was thick. His eyes were hard, hungry, and bright in a way Nolan did not like. The figure looked up and smiled. "Nolan Grayson," he said, voice loud and pleased. "There you are." Nolan's body went still in midair. His voice stayed controlled. "Conquest," he said. Conquest spread his arms wide, as if greeting an old friend. "You're late," he said, "and I've been bored." Nolan's eyes flicked toward the town below. He did not want this here. Not near people. Not near witnesses. Conquest followed his glance and grinned wider. "Oh," he said. "You found locals you care about." Nolan landed on solid ground, boots sinking slightly into cracked dirt. "Leave," Nolan said. Conquest laughed. "That's not how this works," he said. "I'm here to audit you." Nolan's jaw tightened. "There is nothing to audit," he said. Conquest's smile faded into something colder. "You were sent," he said. "You were given a world. You were given time. Your reports went silent." He stepped closer, slow and heavy. "And now," Conquest said, "I hear you've been wearing a costume and taking orders from children." Nolan's eyes narrowed. "I'm gathering information," he said. Conquest tilted his head, mocking. "Are you?" he asked. "Or are you going soft?" Nolan's fists curled. "Don't," he warned. Conquest's grin returned. "Make me," he said. Then Conquest moved. The speed was violent. It was not a dash. It was like space vanished between them. Nolan blocked by instinct. Their fists collided. The shockwave ripped through the trees behind them. Branches snapped. Dust exploded outward. A line of rock cracked down the slope like a scar. Nolan pushed upward, grabbing Conquest by the shoulder and driving him into the sky. They rose above the ridge in a blur. Below, the town's lights flickered as the power lines shook. People stepped outside and looked up, confused. Then they saw two shapes in the sky. Two flying men. Two storms. Nolan slammed Conquest into a cloud layer, trying to get them higher, away from ground. Conquest laughed as he flew backward. "There's the Nolan I remember," he shouted. Nolan's face stayed tight. "Get out of my way," he said. Conquest's eyes gleamed. "No," he said. "Prove you deserve your mission." He surged forward. They collided again. Nolan's punch drove into Conquest's ribs. Conquest barely moved. Conquest's elbow hit Nolan's jaw. Nolan's head snapped to the side. If a normal human had taken that hit, they would have been paced. Nolan steadied himself and drove both of them even higher. He knew this was not a fight he could finish casually. Conquest was not a Nomu. He was not a villain with a fragile body. He was a Viltrumite who lived for war. And he came to test one thing: if Nolan still belonged. Down below, the Commission escort team finally caught up. They had tracked Nolan's movement, and the impact sensors had screamed. They looked up and saw the sky shake. Their leader spoke into a radio, voice tight. "Contact established," she said. "Unknown second flyer. Repeat, unknown second flyer. Requesting pro-hero backup." A distant voice replied. "Location confirmed. ETA 10 minutes. 10 minutes? She snapped. "The mountain might not exist in 10 minutes. All Might arrived in a helicopter with a few top pros. He hated helicopters. He hated how slow they were. He hated that his body could not just leap into the sky anymore and end the fear with a smile. He looked out the open door and saw the clouds above the ridge pulse with impacts like thunder. Endeavor stood near him, flames low, eyes sharp, jaw clenched. Hawks hovered outside, feathers ready, watching the sky like a hunter watching prey. Aizawa sat strapped in, scarf coiled, gaze fixed upward. Nezu was not there. Nezu stayed behind to protect the school. All Might's hands shook slightly, not from fear, from anger, because this world did not need another disaster. The helicopter landed hard in a field as people ran in panic. All Might stepped out, breathing cold air, and looked up. Two figures broke through the cloud layer and fell. They were not falling like humans. They were falling like missiles. They hit the ridge in a crash that turned stone into dust. Then they rose again. All Might's eyes widened. The second man was not Omni-Man. He looked like Omni-Man's cruel older brother, bigger, meaner, smiling like this was fun. That man's voice carried even from far away. "Come on," he shouted. "Hit me harder!" All Might clenched his fists. Aizawa's voice was low. "That's not a quirk," he said. Endeavor's flames rose. "Then what is it?" he snapped. All Might swallowed. "Something from outside our world," he said. Hawk's eyes narrowed. "Like a Nomu?" he asked. "No," All Might said. "Worse." They sprinted toward the ridge. As they got closer, they heard the words. Conquest shouted, "Nolan Grayson!" All Might froze for half a step. Aizawa's eyes widened behind his goggles. "Grayson?" Aizawa repeated quietly. Omni-Man, Nolan, answered through gritted teeth. "Stop saying my name," he snapped. Conquest laughed. "Why?" he taunted. "Because your little hero friends don't know what you are." All Might felt his stomach drop. So there was a name behind the mask, a real identity, not the one on the forms. And the way Nolan reacted to it told All Might everything. Nolan had been hiding, not just details, his entire truth. Conquest slammed into Nolan again, driving him down toward the ground. Nolan caught him, twisted, and flung him sideways into the mountain wall. The wall exploded inward. Rock and dirt rained down. People screamed in the valley below. Hawk shot forward, feathers slicing the air, trying to redirect falling debris away from the evacuation routes. Endeavor blasted upward, melting a path through rolling rocks to keep them from crushing the town. Aizawa shouted orders into his radio. "Evacuate the north side. Move them now!" All Might watched Nolan for one hard second. Nolan's face was not calm anymore. It was tight with focus, with anger, with something like shame. All Might understood the danger in a new way. Nolan wasn't just strong. He had a past that could reach into their world like a fist. Conquest rose from the broken wall, dust on his shoulders, smiling wide. He looked down at the heroes gathered below and made a mocking sound. "Oh," he said. "He collected a little army." Endeavor stepped forward, flames flaring high. "You," he snapped. "What are you?" Conquest looked at him like he was a loud insect. "I'm the correction," he said. Then Conquest shot down toward Endeavor. Endeavor fired a blast hot enough to turn air into shimmering waves. Conquest flew through it. Not untouched, his suit scorched, skin smoking. But he did not slow. He slammed Endeavor into the ground so hard the earth jumped. Endeavor coughed, eyes wide in shock. Hawks moved in, feathers rapping, trying to bind Conquest's arms for even a second. Conquest flexed. The feathers tore like paper. Hawks shot backward, barely saving himself, eyes wide now for real. Aizawa stared up at Conquest, hair lifting as he activated erasure out of habit. Nothing. Conquest grinned at him. "Cute," he said. All Might's chest tightened. He had been afraid of villains. He had been afraid of All for One. But this was different. This was not a criminal. This was a conqueror. Nolan surged forward and hit Conquest from the side, driving him away from the heroes. "Leave them out of this," Nolan growled. Conquest spun in midair and laughed. "Why?" he asked. "They're part of your evaluation now." Nolan's voice dropped. "This is between us," he said. Conquest leaned close, eyes bright. "Everything is between us," he said, "because our empire is bigger than your feelings." Nolan's fists clenched hard. All Might stepped forward, voice loud, even in his weak form. "Nolan!" he shouted. Nolan's head turned for a fraction. All Might met his eyes and spoke with raw honesty. "Are we in danger?" he demanded. Nolan's face tightened. Then he answered, blunt and real. "Yes," he said. The word hit like a punch. All Might's mouth opened, then closed. Aizawa's mind raced. Endeavor pushed himself up, flames, sputtering in anger. Hawks hovered low, breathing hard. Conquest smiled as if he loved the tension. "There it is," he said. "Truth." He looked at All Might now, finally interested. "You're the symbol," he said. "You keep them calm." All Might's jaw tightened. "I protect people," he said. Conquest chuckled. "You protect them from what you can see," he said. "You don't even know what's in the dark." Then Conquest shot upward, grabbed Nolan by the cape, and dragged him higher. Nolan twisted, tearing the cape free, rather than letting it control his movement. They rose into the sky again, impacts cracking like thunder. All Might watched them go and felt helpless, in a way he had not felt in years. Aizawa saw it too. If Nolan lost, this world would not have a defense ready. If Nolan won, this world would still be shaken to its core. Because now the heroes had heard the name. Now they knew Omni-Man was not just a stranger. He was part of something. Nolan forced the fight higher. He shoved Conquest above the cloud layer, where the air was thin and the ground was far below. Conquest didn't resist. He enjoyed it. Nolan punched Conquest in the face with full Viltrumite force. Conquest's head snapped back. Blood floated in the air in small red beads. Conquest smiled through it. "Yes," he said. "That's it. Stop pretending." Nolan hit him again. Then again. Conquest finally hit back in a brutal, tight combo that drove Nolan backward through the sky like a kicked ball. Nolan recovered, stopped himself, and rushed forward. They clashed over and over, each hit fast and heavy. Nolan's mind was not just fighting, it was calculating. If this continued, the shockwaves would keep reaching the ground. Buildings would crack. People would die from falling glass and collapsing roads, even without a direct hit. Nolan had to end it fast, but ending it fast meant doing what this world feared. Killing. Conquest read Nolan's hesitation and laughed. "You're thinking like them," he said. Soft. Slow. Nolan's eyes narrowed. "I'm thinking about control," he said. Conquest grinned. "Control is taking what you want," he said. Nolan moved behind Conquest in a blur and locked an arm around Conquest's neck, trying to choke him out, trying to end it without ripping him apart. Conquest slammed backward, smashing Nolan into him, breaking the hold. Conquest grabbed Nolan's face and drove his head forward into Nolan's nose. Pain flashed. Nolan's vision shook. Conquest whispered, "You're failing," and then headbutted him again. Nolan snapped, not into mindless rage, into cold decision. He grabbed Conquest's wrist, twisted it with brutal force until the bone cracked, and used that twist to swing Conquest down. They dropped like meteors toward the ocean far beyond, the town. Nolan aimed for water, deep water, because water could take a hit better than streets. They hit the sea with a blast that threw up a towering wall of spray. Ships rocked miles away. Then they rose again, wet and steaming. Conquest laughed, delighted. "Better," he said. Nolan's voice was low and tight. "I'm not your entertainment," he said. Conquest's smile sharpened. "No," he said. "You're our investment." He leaned close. "And I'm here to remind you what happens to bad investments." Nolan stared at him. Then Nolan asked the question he had avoided for days. "How many?" he said. Conquest's grin turned ugly. "How many what?" he asked, though he knew. "How many are coming?" Nolan said. Conquest's eyes gleamed. "Enough," he said. "This world will kneel, or it will break." Nolan's jaw clenched so hard his teeth creaked. Conquest saw the flicker in Nolan's face and smiled wider. "Ah," he said. "You like parts of it. That's adorable." Nolan shot forward and hit Conquest with a punch that drove him deep under the water. The sea swallowed him. For 2 seconds, there was nothing but churning waves. Then Conquest burst out again, laughing, blood and seawater in his teeth. "You can't hide from it," Conquest said. "The mission is your spine." Nolan's eyes went distant for a fraction, like he was seeing the future. Then Nolan looked back at Conquest, calm returning in a hard, controlled way. "You came for an audit," Nolan said. Conquest nodded, smiling. Nolan's voice went flat. "Here's my report," he said. He moved so fast the air cracked. He hit Conquest once, dead center, with everything he had been holding back. The blow drove Conquest across the ocean like a launched cannonball, skipping him over the water in a chain of explosions until he disappeared over the horizon. Nolan hovered, breathing steady, watching the far distance. He waited. Seconds passed. Then, far away, a small shape rose again. Conquest floated up, smaller now only because of distance, but still alive, still smiling. His voice carried, faint but clear, like he wanted Nolan to hear it. "This isn't finished, Nolan Grayson," Conquest shouted. "Tell your little heroes to build coffins." Then Conquest turned and flew into the sky, leaving the planet for now, like a messenger who had done his job. Nolan hovered over the ocean, silent. He could chase, he could finish it. But he knew what Conquest wanted, a public kill. A clear line crossed, a moment that would burn Omni-Man's image into this world as an executioner. Nolan's hands trembled once, then steadied. He turned back toward Japan, toward All Might, toward the frightened crowds, toward the system that now knew his real name, and toward the fact that somewhere out in space there were others like him. Coming. When Nolan landed back on the ridge, the heroes flinched without meaning to, not because he looked different, because now they understood the scale of what he had been hiding. Aizawa stood in front, scarf ready even though he knew it was pointless. Endeavor stood up straight, bruised and angry. Hawks hovered low, feathers trembling slightly. All Might stood between them, skinny, exhausted, but refusing to step back. Nolan's eyes moved over them. He did not apologize. He did not smile. He spoke like a soldier delivering facts. "That was Conquest," he said. "He's not a villain from your world." All Might's throat tightened. "Then what is he?" he asked. Nolan looked at him for a long second. Then he said it. Viltrumite, Nolan said. The word meant nothing to them, but the way Nolan said it made it heavy. Aizawa asked, "What does that mean?" His voice stayed level, but his stomach twisted. Nolan answered in simple beats, because he had learned this world liked clean labels. "It means my people conquer worlds," Nolan said. "It means who I was sent to prepare this planet." Endeavor's flames burst upward. "What?" he snarled. Hawks's eyes widened. "You're kidding," he said, but it wasn't a joke. All Might's face went still, like a mask had been placed over it. "Nolan," he said quietly. "Is that true?" Nolan met his eyes. "Yes," he said. The silence that followed was worse than any explosion. Aizawa felt his chest tighten. He thought of the students. He thought of the dorms. He thought of Midoriya's shaking hands. Endeavor took a step forward, furious. "So you're an invader," he spat. "You stood in our school." Nolan's gaze snapped to him, sharp enough to cut. "I did not attack your school," Nolan said. "Your villains did." Endeavor's mouth opened. Nolan's voice stayed calm. "If I wanted your school destroyed," he said, "it would already be gone." Hawk swallowed hard, because he believed it. All Might lifted a hand. Slow. "Why tell us now?" he asked. Nolan's eyes moved, toward the town below, where rescue crews were still working, and frightened people still stared at the sky. "Because you heard my name," Nolan said. "Because you saw him. Because you can't unsee it." Aizawa asked, "What happens next?" His voice came out rougher than he wanted. Nolan's jaw tightened. "I don't know," he said. The honesty surprised Aizawa. Nolan looked at All Might again, and for the first time, his voice carried something close to weight. "I was sent to make this world kneel," Nolan said. "But your world has complications." Endeavor scoffed. "Complications?" he snapped. Nolan's eyes did not leave All Might. "Your people fight for strangers," Nolan said. "Even when it hurts them. That is rare." All Might's voice trembled slightly. "And does that change your mission?" he asked. Nolan held his gaze. Then he said, "It changes my timing." Aizawa's skin prickled. "Meaning?" he demanded. Nolan's answer was blunt. "Meaning I will not hand this world over," he said. "Not yet." Endeavor's flames flared higher. "Not yet!" he roared. All Might stepped forward, voice firm. "Nolan," he said, "are you with us or against us?" Nolan's eyes narrowed, thinking. Then he said something that made the ground feel unsteady. "I am with my judgment," Nolan said, "and my judgment is not finished." Aizawa felt the fear rise again. Not fear of a punch, fear of a man who decided what the world deserved. In the distance, sirens wailed, and far underground, All for One smiled as he received the first report. Omni-Man's real name. Omni-Man's real people. Omni-Man's real purpose. All for One whispered to himself, almost delighted. "Now," he said, "we can make him choose." Okay. The mountain fight did not end when the dust settled. It spread. It spread into meetings, into headlines, into fear that sat behind polite smiles. In the first week after Viltrumite became a word the top heroes whispered, the Commission tried to do what it always did. It tried to put the problem into a box. The Commission woman sat in a windowless room with 3 screens and a list of names. She watched slow-motion clips of the sky cracking. She watched Endeavor get driven into the ground. She watched Hawk's feathers tear. She watched the cratered ridge. Then she watched Omni-Man land and say in a calm voice that he had been sent to prepare Earth for conquest. Her staff waited for orders. She did not raise her voice. "We keep him close," she said. "We keep him seen. We keep him predictable." One assistant swallowed. "Ma'am," he said, "how do we make a man like that predictable?" The woman held her gaze on the screen. "With incentives," she said. "With rules. With surveillance." "And if he refuses?" the assistant asked. The woman's eyes did not move. "Then we treat him as a natural disaster," she said. "And we plan evacuations like our lives depend on it. Because they do." She tapped the table once. "Set the public event," she said. "If he wants to learn our world, he will learn what it means to stand in front of it." Nolan spent those same days doing what he always did when a world became complicated. He studied it harder. He ran in the sky at dawn, high enough that birds were far below. He pushed his speed just long enough to feel the air fight him. Then he slowed again. He did not want satellites tracking a sudden spike and calling it an attack. He landed in quiet places and wrote. Not poetry, not feelings. Facts. Response times, command chains, how heroes were deployed, how the public reacted to risk, how fear moved faster than truth. He visited UA once more. Not for a tour, not for a speech. He wanted to see the next generation up close, now that they knew he had lied. The students did not crowd him anymore. They watched him like they watched a storm far away, hoping it would not change direction. Midoriya was the only one who stepped forward. He did it with shaking hands. Nolan noticed. "You're not afraid?" Nolan asked. Midoriya swallowed. "I am," he said. "But you saved us." Nolan's eyes narrowed slightly. "I saved you because it was efficient," he said. Midoriya flinched, but he did not run. "Sometimes," Midoriya said, "the right thing is also efficient." Nolan looked at him for a long moment. Midoriya's voice got quieter. "Are you going to hurt us?" he asked. The question was simple. It was also a knife. Nolan could have answered with a lie that would calm the boy. He did not. "I haven't decided what your world deserves," Nolan said. Midoriya's face fell. Then Midoriya lifted his chin, small and stubborn. "Then I'll show you," he said. Nolan stared. He expected fear. He expected begging. He expected anger. He did not expect that. He nodded once. "Try," he said. Midoriya's eyes hardened, not with hate, but with resolve. "I will," he promised. Nolan turned away first, because the longer he looked at that kind of bravery, the more it complicated things. All Might watched Nolan from the end of the hall. He did not step in. He felt too many things at once: betrayal, relief, anger, and something worse than all of them: doubt. If Nolan was telling the truth, then a whole army of beings like him could come. All Might had fought monsters. He had fought all for one. He had fought until his lungs burned. But this threat was not one villain. It was a system, an empire. All Might went to his office and closed the door. He looked at his own hands. They were still hands that had saved people, but they were not as strong as they used to be. He sat down and pressed his fingers against his forehead. Then he made a decision. If Nolan was going to judge this world, then All Might would make sure Nolan saw its best side. Not the Commission's control, not the villain's cruelty. The people who chose to protect others even when they were scared. He stood up again. He did not have much time left as a symbol, so he would spend that time wisely. The public event took place in a large indoor arena that had been cleaned until it looked new. The stage lights were bright. The cameras were louder than the crowd. The crowd was not cheering the way they would for All Might. They were whispering. "Is he really an alien? Did you see the mountain footage? They say he's stronger than All Might." No one is stronger than All Might. Nolan stood backstage with a commission escort team and a small stack of papers. The commission woman held out a pen. "This is the statement," she said. "Read it exactly." Nolan glanced at the page. It was clean and friendly. It said he valued hero society. It said he would follow all laws. It said he would submit to oversight. It said he would never use lethal force. It was a costume made of words. Nolan looked up. "No," he said. The woman's smile did not move, but the muscles around it tightened. "If you refuse," she said, "you create panic." Nolan answered calmly. "If I lie," he said, "I create worse." The woman's eyes narrowed. "You already lied," she said. Nolan didn't deny it. "Yes," he said. A beat of silence. Then Nolan took the paper, folded it in half, and handed it back. "I will speak," he said, "in my own words." The woman's voice stayed controlled. "Your own words could start riots," she said. Nolan leaned slightly closer, voice low and flat. "Then your society is built on weak ground," he replied. The woman looked at him. For the first time, the calm mask cracked just enough to show fear. Then the stage manager signaled. Nolan walked out. The arena went quiet, like someone had pulled a plug. He stood under the lights. He looked out at thousands of faces and hundreds of cameras. He did not smile. He did not wave. He simply spoke. "My name is Nolan," he said. A low murmur rolled through the crowd. "I am not from your world," he continued. "I was sent here for a purpose. Some of you already know that." The commission woman stiffened backstage. Nolan kept going, voice steady. "I will not attack civilians," he said. "I will not destroy your cities for sport. I will not pretend I am something I'm not." The crowd shifted, uneasy. A reporter shouted, "Are you here to conquer us?" Nolan looked straight at the reporter. "I was sent to prepare this planet," he said. The arena shook with sound. Fear, anger, shock. Nolan raised one hand, not for permission, but to demand quiet. And somehow, the noise dropped. "Listen," Nolan said. "Your world is not defenseless. Your heroes are brave. Your people are stubborn. That matters." He paused. Then he said the part that landed hardest. "But you need to understand something," Nolan said. "The threat you saw on that mountain was not a single man. It was a message." He looked into the cameras like he was speaking directly to whoever might be watching from the dark of space. "Build your strength," he said. "Build your unity. Stop wasting your best fighters on politics. Because if more of my kind come, your rules will not protect you." A reporter screamed, "Are you protecting us or warning us?" Nolan stared for a long second. Then he said, "Both." He stepped back from the microphone. He did not take questions. He left. Backstage, the commission woman exhaled like she had been holding her breath for a full minute. "You just threatened the entire nation," she hissed. Nolan looked at her. "I told them the truth," he said. "Your nation needs it." He walked past her like she was a door, and outside the arena, the world's fear found a new shape. Not villains, not quirks, a man who could decide the future with a single choice. All for One watched the broadcast and laughed softly. He did not laugh because it was funny. He laughed because it was perfect. Nolan had just cracked the system, not with punches, with honesty. "All Might will try to hold the world together," All for One murmured. "The commission will tighten its grip, and the people will want a simple answer." Dr. Garaki shifted nervously. "What do we do?" he asked. All for One's voice turned smooth and pleased. "We give them a choice," he said. "A choice that forces Nolan to show his true face." Garaki swallowed. "How?" All for One leaned forward. "We invite him," he said again, privately. Garaki hesitated. "And if he kills us?" he asked. All for One chuckled. "Then he proves my point," he said. "And if he doesn't, then we learn what kind of man he really is." He tapped a finger once. "Send the location," he said, "and prepare a second stage." "A second stage?" Garaki repeated. All for One's smile widened. A crisis, he said. One that makes heroes, and the commission do something foolish. Nolan received the invitation at night. It was not delivered by mail. A small drone flew up to the window of the temporary apartment the commission had assigned him, dropped a sealed envelope, and flew away before cameras could track it. Nolan opened it. A single line, a time, a place. He did not need to ask who it was from. The handwriting felt like control. He flew out without telling the commission, not because he wanted to be reckless, because he refused to be led by a leash. The meeting place was an empty industrial site near the edge of the city. No crowds, no bright lights, just metal structures, broken pavement, and wind. Nolan landed without sound. A figure waited in the shadows. A man in a long coat, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed like this was his own living room. All for One did not step forward quickly. He let the air sit between them. Then he spoke. "Omni-Man," he said, voice polite. Or should I say, Nolan, Grayson. Nolan's eyes narrowed. "You shouldn't," he said. All for One chuckled. "Names matter," he replied. "They pull masks off." Nolan did not move. "You sent villains to a school," he said. "You harmed children." All for One's voice stayed gentle. "I harmed a symbol," he corrected. "Children are collateral in this world. Your hero society uses them too. You noticed." Nolan's jaw tightened. All for One tilted his head, as if studying Nolan the way Nolan studied worlds. "Tell me," All for One said, "do you enjoy being ordered around by clerks with clipboards?" Nolan said nothing. All for One smiled. "You see it," he said. "A system that tells strong men to kneel. A system that calls control safety." Nolan's voice was flat. "State your offer." All for One's smile widened. "Join me," he said. "Not as a servant, as a partner. We tear down the weak parts of this society and build something honest." Nolan's eyes hardened. "You mean you want my power," he said. All for One spread his hand slightly. "Of course," he admitted. "And you want something too." Nolan did not answer. All for One's voice dropped, calm and sharp. "You want clarity," he said. "You want order. You want a world that makes sense. You want people to stop pretending their rules can stop death." Nolan stared. All for One took one step closer. "I can give you freedom," he said. "No commission, no licensing, no smiling speeches. We use power directly. We end threats permanently." Nolan's fists tightened. Then Nolan asked, "What do you gain?" All for One smiled like a teacher pleased with a student. "A world without all might," he said. "A world where my kind of power sits on top again." Nolan's eyes narrowed further. "So you want conquest too," he said. All for One's smile did not fade. "Conquest is just a word for control," he replied. Nolan moved. He did not fly. He stepped forward so fast the air snapped. In one motion, he grabbed All for One by the coat and lifted him off the ground. All for One did not panic. He smiled. Nolan's voice was low and dangerous. "You hurt people for pleasure," Nolan said. "You call it order." All for One's voice stayed calm even while dangling. "And you were sent to conquer a planet," he replied. "Don't pretend you're above me." Nolan's grip tightened just enough to wrinkle the coat. Then he released him. All for One landed on his feet like he had expected it. Nolan stared at him. "I don't serve chaos," Nolan said, "and you are chaos-wearing manners." All for One chuckled. "Then you will serve the heroes?" he asked. Nolan's answer was immediate. "No," he said. All for One's smile widened, pleased. "Good," he said. "So you stand alone." Nolan's eyes narrowed. "What is your trap?" he he asked. All for One's voice stayed light. Not a trap, he said. Demonstration. A low rumble shook the site. Nolan's head snapped toward the city. He felt it. A sudden wave of panic. Sirens. A burst of energy like many quirks activating at once. All for One lifted a hand, as if presenting a stage. While we speak, he said, my followers are striking the Commission's secure transport line. Nolan's gaze turned icy. Why? He demanded. All for One smiled. Because the Commission has been building contingencies, he said. Tools meant for you. I thought you might want to see how your new friends treat you when they're scared. Nolan's fists clenched. He did not say another word. He launched into the sky. Aizawa arrived at the transport route in a blur of scarf and exhaustion. Armored trucks sat blocked in the street. Smoke rose from a shattered intersection. Civilians were being pushed back by pro-heroes, but the crowd was still too close. Kurogiri's fog rolled between two trucks, opening gates like doors. Nomu shapes moved in the mist, heavy and fast. Shigaraki stood on a damaged rooftop, looking down like a king of garbage. He was smiling again, but it was sharper now. "This is a message," Shigaraki shouted. "Your rules are weak!" Endeavor blasted forward, flames roaring, trying to keep the Nomu away from the civilians. Hawks flew overhead, feathers grabbing people and pulling them to safety. Aizawa activated Erasure, eyes burning, but it barely mattered. These threats were built, not triggered. And then the Commission's contingency showed itself. From the armored trucks, support tech fired out in a spread. Thick cables with weighted ends, nets that crackled with energy. Foam grenades that hardened instantly. A sound device that made the air vibrate. Aizawa's eyes widened. They weren't aiming at Nomu. They were shaping the street. They were building a trap. For Nolan, a commission officer shouted into a megaphone, "All units, prepare net pattern beta!" When Omni-Man arrives, deploy. Aizawa's stomach dropped. He turned to the officer. "Are you insane?" he barked. "There are civilians here." The officer's face was pale but stubborn. "If we don't restrain him now, we may never get another chance," he snapped. Aizawa clenched his jaw. "He's not the one attacking this street," he hissed. The officer did not care. That was the Commission's flaw. They loved control more than they loved truth. The next seconds moved too fast. A shadow fell over the street. Wind punched downward. Nolan arrived like a silent meteor. He hovered above the intersection, eyes scanning in one cold sweep. He saw the Nomu. He saw Kurogiri. He saw Shigaraki. He saw the trap. He saw the civilians still too close. Aizawa felt the whole crowd freeze as one. Nolan's voice carried, calm and flat. "Move the civilians," he said. Endeavor shouted back, "We're trying!" Nolan dropped. He hit the street and moved through the Nomu like they were training dummies. Not playing, not showing off. Efficient. One Nomu lunged. Nolan grabbed it by the shoulder and threw it straight up. It disappeared into the sky. Another Nomu charged. Nolan punched through its chest and yanked the armature of muscle and bone sideways, tearing it off balance, dropping it hard. He did not smile. He did not shout. He just worked. Kurogiri opened a gate behind Nolan. Nolan turned and grabbed the swirling fog with both hands like it was cloth. He pulled. The gate warped and shrieked. Kurogiri's form shook, struggling to hold. Aizawa saw it and felt his breath catch. This wasn't a normal fight. Nolan was wrestling space itself. Shigaraki's eyes widened. Then Shigaraki screamed, "No!" And the Commission fired. Cables shot out toward Nolan's limbs. Nets crackled toward his torso. The sound device screamed a pulse through the air. Civilians shouted and ducked. Hawks cursed and dove to pull people away from the blast zone. Nolan's head snapped toward the incoming gear. For one terrifying moment, Aizawa thought Nolan would do the simplest thing. Break everything. Break the trucks. Break the officers. Break the street. Aizawa moved without thinking. He threw his scarf, not at Nolan, but at the cable launchers. He yanked one launcher sideways, ripping it off target. "Stop!" Aizawa shouted at the commission line. "Evacuation first!" The officer screamed back. "He's the threat!" Aizawa's eyes burned. "Not right now!" he roared. Nolan's gaze flicked to Aizawa. Just a flick. But Aizawa felt it like a spotlight. Then Nolan did something that shocked the commission and the villains both. He did not attack. He flew straight up. The nets missed. The cable snapped past him and tangled. He rose above the intersection and clapped his hands once. The sound was not normal. It hit like a wall. Windows shattered outward. Loose debris blasted away from the street, clearing sight lines. People screamed and covered their ears. But the effect was simple. It pushed the smoke away. It pushed civilians back. It gave heroes space. Then Nolan dove back down, faster than anyone could aim at him. He hit Kurogiri with a straight strike that disrupted the fog form long enough for Aizawa to bind the collar mechanism inside with his scarf. Kurogiri's gate flickered. Hawk saw the opening and drove feathers into the ground around Kurogiri's exit point, marking it and pinning movement. Endeavor blasted Shigaraki's rooftop, forcing Shigaraki to leap away. Shigaraki hissed, eyes wild. This was supposed to be about fear, he spat. Nolan looked up at him, expression cold. It still is, Nolan said. He launched upward. Shigaraki threw his hand out to decay the rooftop and drop Nolan into rubble. Nolan did not touch the rooftop. He hovered just above it, then drove a punch into the air itself, creating a shock that blasted Shigaraki backward off his footing. Shigaraki rolled, coughing, furious. Kurogiri tried to open a gate to pull him away. Aizawa yanked hard on his scarf, keeping Kurogiri's form unstable. For a second, it looked like they might actually capture them. Then All for One's calm voice came through Shigaraki's ear again. "Leave," it said. Shigaraki snarled. "No! Leave," the voice repeated. "You got what you came for." Shigaraki's eyes darted to the street below, to Nolan, to the commission nets lying tangled like dead snakes. His mouth twisted into a hateful grin. Kurogiri's fog surged. A gate opened. Shigaraki spit down toward the heroes. "Enjoy your new monster," he shouted. Then they were gone. Silence hit again, broken only by sirens and broken glass. Aizawa's chest heaved. He turned toward the commission officer. The officer's face was white with rage and fear. "We almost had him," the officer whispered. Aizawa's eyes were sharp and tired. "You almost killed civilians," he shot back. The officer looked at Nolan, standing in the street, calm in the wreckage. Nolan's gaze moved slowly over the officers, the trucks, the trap gear. He understood perfectly. He stepped toward them. The crowd flinched. The officer raised a weapon with shaking hands. It was not a gun. It was a support device, but it was still pointed like a threat. Nolan stopped in front of the officer. He did not raise his voice. "If you try that again," Nolan said, "you will lose control of the situation completely." The officer swallowed. "You're an invader," he whispered. Nolan's eyes did not blink. "And you are afraid," he replied. "So you make foolish plans." Aizawa stepped between them, scarf hanging loose, voice low but firm. "Enough," he said. Nolan's gaze shifted to Aizawa. Aizawa met it. No flinching, no begging, just a hard line. "You don't get to intimidate my city," Aizawa said. "Not villains, not the commission, not you." A beat of silence. Then Nolan said, "Good." Aizawa frowned. "What?" Nolan's voice stayed calm. "That's what a protector sounds like," he said. Then he turned away from the officer and looked toward the distant skyline. All Might arrived late, running, breathing hard, his face strained. He saw the wreckage. He saw the netgear. He saw Nolan standing still like the center of a storm that had decided to pass. All Might's voice came out rough. "Nolan," he said. Nolan turned. All Might looked him in the eye. "Did you meet him?" All Might asked quietly. Nolan did not lie. "Yes," he said. All Might's hands clenched. "And?" he asked. Nolan answered in one clean sentence. "He thinks this world should be ruled by fear," Nolan said. All Might's eyes narrowed. "And you?" he asked. Nolan looked at the broken street, the injured heroes, the civilians being carried away by medics. He looked at Aizawa, who had just stepped in front of him. He looked at All Might, still standing even when his body couldn't keep up anymore. He spoke with the closest thing to honesty he had shown since arriving. "I don't respect him," Nolan said. All Might's breath caught. Nolan continued, voice steady. "I also don't trust your commission," he said. The commission officer bristled, but said nothing. Nolan looked back at All Might. "I will not join your system," he said. "I will not sign your papers. I will not wear your leash." All Might's shoulders dropped slightly, like he had expected it. Then Nolan said the part that changed everything. "But I will not hand this world over," Nolan said. "Not while I'm here." All Might's eyes widened. Aizawa's gaze tightened. Hawks, hovering nearby, went still. Endeavor stared like he didn't want to believe it. Nolan's voice stayed calm. "If my people come," he said, "I will deal with them." All Might swallowed. "Why?" he asked. Nolan's jaw tightened. He could have said, "Because it's strategic." He could have said, "Because it benefits me." Instead, he said something simple, and it sounded like it surprised him too. "Because I saw you fight for strangers," Nolan said, "and I saw children stand up when they should have run." His eyes flicked once toward the distance, toward UA's direction. Then he looked back at All Might. "I don't know what that is," Nolan admitted, "but it's real." All Might's eyes softened, just a little. "Then stand with us," he said. "Even if you don't join the system, stand with the people." Nolan stared at him. Then Nolan nodded once. Not a pledge, not a vow, a choice made for now. "Fine," Nolan said. The commission officer opened his mouth. Nolan turned his head slightly. "And one more thing," Nolan added, voice flat. Everyone listened. "If you try to trap me again," Nolan said, "I will leave. And then you will face what comes without me." The threat was not shouted. That made it worse. Aizawa felt the weight of it and hated that it made sense. All Might took a slow breath. He forced his voice steady. "Then we won't," he said, even though he couldn't promise for the commission. "We'll find another way." Nolan looked at him like he was testing that promise. Then he lifted off the ground. He rose above the street. He looked down at the heroes, the civilians, the broken glass. For a second, he looked like a statue carved out of power. Then he spoke one last time, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Prepare," Nolan said. "Train smarter. Coordinate faster. Stop wasting time fighting each other." He paused. "And keep your children out of war," he added. Then he flew away, a red and white streak that vanished into the clouds. Aizawa watched him go, feeling no relief, only a new kind of responsibility, because now the world had a guardian it could not control, and a countdown it could not see. Weeks later, the city learned Nolan's new routine. Appeared when something truly big happened. He did not patrol for applause. He did not pose for cameras. He did not answer the commission's calls unless it matched his own judgment. Sometimes he met All Might on rooftops for short talks that ended with no agreement, only understanding. Sometimes he spoke to Nezu in a quiet UA office, where Nezu asked sharp questions, and Nolan gave careful answers. Sometimes he trained alone over the ocean, hitting the air so hard it cracked, then stopping before the shock reached shore. The Commission hated it. But the Commission also noticed something. Crime patterns shifted. Villains who once liked big public attacks started choosing smaller targets again. Not because they had become kind, because they did not want to be the one Nolan decided to end quickly. All for One noticed too, and he smiled. Because fear and order both created pressure, and pressure created cracks, and cracks were where he lived. At UA, Midoriya trained harder than ever, ran until his lungs burned. He punched until his hands shook. He studied until his eyes hurt. He did not train because he wanted to beat Omni-Man. He trained because Omni-Man's words had landed like a warning. Bravery without capability is a short life. Midoriya hated that the warning made sense. He also remembered something else. Omni-Man had said, "Try." Midoriya took that as permission. Not permission to fight him. Permission to prove that this world could be worth protecting, even to someone like Nolan. On a quiet night, Nolan stood on a rooftop and wrote in his notebook. The city below was calmer than it had been. Not safe, not perfect. Just moving. He watched a small hero patrol cross an intersection. A young pro helped an old man carry a box. A child waved. Nolan watched without smiling. Then he wrote one sentence. "This world is stubborn." He paused. He listened to the distant sounds. Cars, sirens far away. A train. For a moment, he allowed himself to think about the stars, about Conquest's grin, about the word audit, about how many might be coming. He closed the notebook. He looked down at the city again, at people who had no idea how close the future could be. Nolan could leave. He could vanish into the sky and never look back. But he stayed. Not because the Commission asked, not because All Might begged, because a choice had been made, and Nolan respected choices that carried weight. He stepped to the edge of the rooftop. Far below, a hero light flashed as a patrol turned a corner. Nolan watched it. Then he turned his eyes upward, toward the dark sky. And in a calm voice that no one else could hear, he said, "Not yet." He lifted off, quiet and steady. The city kept breathing, and the world kept turning. Just different now.